My name is Evan Reed. I'm 36, from Austin, Texas. 2 years ago, I married the woman of my dreams. And 40 days later, she disappeared without a trace. At first, everyone assumed she was kidnapped. Then they thought she ran away. But the truth, the one I uncovered piece by piece, was worse than either. Because Natalie wasn't just hiding something. She was someone else entirely, and loving her almost destroyed me. Natalie Grace Foster. That's the name I knew. The woman I fell in love with. She worked in publishing, loved French films, had a habit of twisting her ring when she lied. Something I only noticed after she vanished. We met through friends. Her laugh was low and private, like a secret you wanted to be in on. She moved with quiet confidence. I'd been through breakups, chaos, family loss. But Natalie made everything feel still. She didn't talk much about her past. Said her parents were dead. No siblings. Just a godmother in upstate New York who'd been her guardian. She told me she'd had a bad relationship in college. That she changed her number and moved cross-country to escape it. I never pressed. I should have. Our wedding was small. Backyard ceremony. Close friends. Some of hers I hadn't met. Distant. Polite. One man, Jonah, stayed at the edge of every group photo, barely speaking. Natalie said he was a cousin. He wasn't. But I wouldn't find that out until much later. The morning after the wedding, she left early to pick up coffee. She never came back. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her car was found 2 hours away, empty, locked, purse inside. That day I called hospitals, police, her work. She'd quit 2 weeks before the wedding. Never told me. The police were kind at first, treated it like a missing person case. But when no ransom came, no activity on her bank account, and no signs of foul play, they quietly assumed she left me. I refused to believe it. I hired a private investigator. He found inconsistencies within a week. Her social security number wasn't real. The address she'd listed on our marriage license was a UPS drop box. The godmother in New York died 5 years ago. Natalie Grace Foster didn't exist. I broke. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I replayed our entire relationship in my head, looking for cracks, tells, things that didn't make sense. And then I remembered something. She once left a keychain on the counter, a hotel tag, brass, vintage, room 214. It looked like a prop. When I asked, she said she bought it at a flea market in Baltimore. But we'd never been to Baltimore, and she never mentioned that city again. I searched every hotel in Baltimore with room 214. 2 weeks later, I found one, a tiny inn near the harbor. I showed them her photo. The manager recognized her. She'd stayed there, under a different name, 3 times in the past year. Always with the same man. Always paid cash. I got the security footage. Grainy, black, and white. But it was her. Laughing, holding hands, looking free. The man with her? Jonah. The cousin. I drove home in a daze. My wife, my missing wife, had been seeing another man before the wedding, staying in hotels, lying to me. But why marry me at all? Why the ceremony? Why the vows? I didn't have answers. Until the package arrived. No return address. Inside, a flash drive, a letter, and a small velvet pouch. The letter was in her handwriting. Evan, if you're reading this, I've failed. Not in disappearing, but in protecting you from the mess I made long before I met you. You were the first person who made me believe I could be real again. That I didn't have to keep running. But ghosts don't vanish because you wish them to. And I brought mine with me. Jonah isn't who you think he is. And I'm not who I said I was. Watch the video. Then destroy it. I'm sorry. N. The video was short, 15 minutes. It showed Natalie, but younger. Different hair, different voice. Arguing with Jonah in a hotel room. He was angry, accusing. She was crying. There were flashes of a weapon, screaming. Then silence. At the end, Natalie turned to the camera. I didn't know he was married. I didn't know about the baby. He said he'd left her. He lied. And now, she's dead. The next morning, I brought everything to the police. They couldn't verify the tape. Said it was too old. No metadata. No timestamp. Possibly staged. But 2 weeks later, they contacted me again. There was an open case. A woman found dead in a hotel in Baltimore. 2015. Unsolved. The man she'd been meeting? Jonah Thomas. Same last name Natalie had used once by accident, months before the wedding. The investigation reopened. Natalie's real name. Emily Thomas. Jonah's sister-in-law. She'd gone into hiding after the death. Changed identity. Started over. And then met me. They never found her. But they arrested Jonah. DNA evidence linked him to the crime scene in 2015. The case is pending trial. I testified. Shared the letter. The video. The photos. And then I tried to move on. Some nights I still dream of her, laughing, twisting her ring. Sometimes I check my mail and hope for a letter, a postcard, anything. But all I have is the pouch. Inside is my wedding ring. And hers. 2 lives. 1 lie. And a love I still don't know how to grieve. Because sometimes the person who saves you was running from something they couldn't escape. And sometimes they take you with them. It was supposed to be over. Jonah was behind bars. The police closed the case. And I told myself it was time to move on. But every time I tried, I ended up right back in that room with the flash drive and the letter. Wondering what else she hadn't told me. What other names she'd used. What other truths still lived in the shadows of her past. I needed closure. Not just for myself, but for the version of her I'd loved. The version that might never have existed. So I went back to Baltimore. The city looked different now. Not just because it had been years since I last visited, but because I was seeing it through a different lens. Hers. Every block, every streetlight, every cafe might have been a part of her real life. The one she never shared. I checked into the same Harbor Inn where she'd stayed with Jonah. Room 214. It hadn't changed. Same cracked lamp, same stiff mattress, same view of the water. I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to imagine what she felt here. Safe? Guilty? Free? I didn't know. The manager who'd given me the old footage still worked there. I asked if he remembered anything else, any names, details, friends. He frowned, then said, there was a third person. Once, woman, older. She called your wife Claire. Claire. Another name. I found the reservation. C. Dalton. Paid in cash. No ID. But the manager remembered her because she'd brought flowers and called the front desk from the hallway. Asking for privacy. I had no leads, so I did the only thing I could. I waited. Sat in that room, reading old notebooks, trying to piece together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. And then, on the second night, someone slid an envelope under the door. No return address, no writing on the front. Inside, a photo. Natalie, or Emily, or Claire, sitting at a diner, smiling, arm around a young girl, maybe 10 or 11. The girl looked just like her. On the back, one word. Hope. I left the inn and drove 3 hours north to a town called Hopewell. It was a stretch, but the name stuck. There, I found a diner that matched the background in the photo. Same red booths, same turquoise tile. I asked the waitress about the woman and the girl. She nodded. That's Claire. She used to come in every Saturday. Just stopped showing up one day. I showed her Natalie's photo. Yeah, that's her. She said the girl was her niece. Quiet kid. Smart. Do you know where she lived? Number. But she used to walk from the east side, always carried the same blue backpack. Said she was a tutor. A tutor. Another layer. I canvassed the neighborhood. Knocked on doors. Described her. Most people shook their heads. One woman, though, mid-40s, thin, sharp eyes, froze. You're not a cop? Number, just trying to understand. She looked me up and down, then opened the door wider. She called herself Claire Dalton. Helped my niece with reading. Never asked for money. Said she needed the company. She lived 3 blocks down. Basement unit. I'll show you. The apartment had been vacant for months, but the landlord let me in. The place was sparse. Clean. Too clean. Like someone wiped it down. But in the back of the closet, taped to the inside wall, was another envelope. My name on the front. Inside. A note. If you found this, I'm sorry. I didn't want to leave more behind. But I couldn't stay. Not with what's coming. The girl, her name is May. She's not mine, but she should have been. I tried to save her from him, but I failed. Like I failed before. Like I'll probably fail again. Don't follow me. No signature. I gave the photo to the police, asked about May. They found a match in foster records. Father, Jonah Thomas. Deceased. Mother, overdosed. The girl had been missing for 6 months, reported as a runaway. They hadn't connected her to Emily, but now they had, and so did I. Emily hadn't run from justice. She'd run to protect someone. Hopewell had given me answers, but not peace. May was out there, somewhere. And Emily, or Claire, or whatever name she wore now, had once again vanished, leaving behind just enough for me to chase her. This time, I didn't tell the police. I didn't call Riley, my old investigator. I followed the thread myself. I started with the diner. I went back, showed the photo to every customer, every employee. One of the cooks remembered May. Said she'd overheard her once mention a shelter in Binghamton. So, I drove to Binghamton. I checked every shelter, every youth center. After 4 days, I found her, or at least a record of her. May had been admitted under an alias, stayed 2 nights, left with a woman who said she was an aunt. No ID, no paperwork. Just a name on the sign-out sheet. Claire Dalton. She was alive. She had May. And she was still moving. I sat in the car that night and stared at the ceiling, wondering what kind of person Emily truly was. A liar? Yes. A runaway? Definitely. But maybe something else. Someone who kept running into danger instead of away from it. Back at home, I started pulling threads I had ignored before. Old photos, phone records, background checks I'd abandoned. I began to look not for her, but for people like her. Other aliases. Patterns. That's when I found a file on an unsolved case in Albany. 2017. A child rescued from an abusive home. Anonymous tipster. The description matched Emily. And another in Pennsylvania. 2019. Same pattern. She had been doing this for years. Saving children. Living under names that weren't hers. Always leaving before anyone could stop her. But then I found something else. A photo. One I didn't take. It had been slipped into a box of our wedding keepsakes. It showed Emily standing behind me. watching me, from across the lawn. She wasn't smiling. She looked afraid. I remembered the letter. I brought my ghosts with me. What if she hadn't just been protecting May? What if someone had been following her all along? I went back to Riley. He ran surveillance photos, searched for patterns, sightings, public records. 2 days later, he called me, voice tight. You were right. There's someone else. A man. Late 40s. No confirmed ID. Seen near the Baltimore Inn. Near the diner in Hopewell. Near the shelter in Binghamton. Always in the background. Always watching. Emily wasn't just saving May. She was being hunted. And she used our wedding, our life, as a place to hide. Not from me, but from him. He had a name now. Riley found it on a rental application in New Jersey. Fake references, no driver's license, but the photo ID matched the man in the background. The one always lurking where Emily had been. Name: Victor Hale. No criminal record. No paper trail. No social media. But in the corner of one surveillance frame, Riley spotted something. A logo. A private security badge. We traced it back to a firm in Arizona. The company had folded 5 years ago after a lawsuit. Something about unlawful surveillance. One of the employees? Victor Hale. He wasn't just a man. He was a professional. And he wasn't following Emily out of obsession. He was hired. Riley dug deeper. Victor had been linked, unofficially, to 3 other missing person cases. All women. All with histories of foster care, aliases, relocations. All vanished. Just like Emily. And just like May might. If I didn't act. We tracked him to a small town in Vermont. He'd rented a cabin there under a different alias. No phone listed. But neighbors remembered him. Always in a gray jacket. Always alone. Always watching. I flew out that night. I didn't tell Riley. I didn't tell anyone. It was snowing when I arrived. The cabin sat at the edge of a pine forest. Lights off. No car. I knocked. No answer. I waited. At 3:47 a.m., headlights flashed through the trees. A Jeep pulled up, and Victor stepped out. He didn't look surprised to see me. Just tired. What do you want? He said. I want to know why. He walked past me, unlocked the cabin, and left the door open. Come in. But don't touch anything. Inside, it smelled like dust and burnt coffee. On the walls, photographs. Dozens. Emily, May, other girls. Some I didn't recognize. All taken from a distance. It was a shrine. Or a case file. Victor poured a drink. Didn't offer one. You think she's innocent? He said. You think she's some runaway saint. But she's not. I stayed silent. She's part of something bigger, he continued. A group. Off the books. They find kids the system fails. But sometimes they cross lines. Forge papers. Steal identities. Take children away from families. Even if the law says they can't. And you? I asked. Who hired you? He looked at me. Really looked. That's the wrong question. I left the cabin before sunrise. But I took one photo with me. It showed Emily, holding a baby. On the back, in faded ink. Maya. Chicago. Ice on Sibsam. She'd been doing this for over a decade. Protecting children. Breaking laws to do it. And someone wanted it all erased. I knew what I had to do. Not just to find her, but to finish what she started. To protect the next May. To protect her. Chicago in winter is steel and silence. I hadn't been back since college, but it felt like another lifetime. Like I was walking through someone else's memory. Maybe hers. The photo Victor left behind was old, grainy, but the baby's eyes were sharp, and the way Emily held her. Not like a babysitter. Not like a stranger. Like someone who'd already decided she'd protect her at any cost. I started with the address written in faded ink on the back of the photo. A building near South Shore. Boarded up. Burnt partially in a fire 2 years ago. Neighbors had moved. Others didn't remember the woman in the picture, but one older man on the corner did. Yeah. That girl. The one with the kid. She used to help at the clinic. He gave me the name. Hope Street Outreach. The clinic was still there, barely hanging on. I showed them the photo. The receptionist nodded slowly. That's Claire. She volunteered here for a year, helped with kids, knew all their names. Do you remember the baby? She hesitated. She called her Maya, said she was a foster case. But Claire was different about her, like they had history. I asked if they had records. They didn't, or wouldn't show them. But the janitor, a tall, tired man with a face full of regret, stopped me in the parking lot. She didn't come here for the job, he said. She came because of what happened before. What happened? A girl died. A teenager. Abuse case. The city never followed up. Claire took it personally. What was the girl's name? He looked around. Serena. Serena Lyle. I searched the archives. Found a single mention. Body of 15-year-old found in abandoned home. Cause of death. Overdose. No foul play. Suspected. But I found more. A CPS report from a year prior. Same name. Allegations of neglect. Stepfather involved. Case dismissed for lack of evidence. The investigator listed? Emily Thomas. It wasn't a real name, not then. But I knew the handwriting. She tried to save Serena. She failed. After Serena's death, Maya, Serena's half-sister, went missing. Case closed as a runaway. But I knew better. Emily took her. She didn't just start this work in Baltimore, or with May. It started in Chicago, with Maya. Her first rescue. Her first ghost. I found Maya. Not the baby. The girl. Now 16. She was living in a private home outside Indianapolis, under a different name. The woman who ran the place, a former social worker, knew who I was before I said a word. She said one day you'd come. I was stunned. She left this for you, the woman said. A sealed envelope. My name. In that same sharp script. Inside. If you're here, it means Maya is safe. It means you saw past the lies, the layers, the parts of me I hated. This isn't about forgiveness. I don't want yours. I never did. But you should know. I married you because for the first time in years, I believed I could stop running. I was wrong. But I loved you anyway. I hope that's enough. It wasn't enough. But it was everything. I stood on the porch for an hour, staring out at the snow, wondering how someone could vanish so thoroughly, and still leave so much of themselves behind. Victor was wrong. She wasn't part of a group. She was the group. I didn't expect the address to be real. It was scribbled in the margin of a pamphlet I found inside the envelope, tucked between the pages. The corner of an old flyer for a legal aid nonprofit in St. Louis. But someone had written an address and a name in black ink. Bishop House. Ask for Theo. That was it. Bishop House was a brick building wedged between a shuttered laundromat and a liquor store. The front window was cracked, the buzzer broken. I knocked twice, then a third time, harder. A woman answered. Mid-40s, tired eyes, warm voice. You're looking for Theo? She said. I nodded. She stepped back. He said you might come. Theo was older than I expected. Late 60s, maybe 70. Moved slow, like every joint carried a story. His office was cramped, lined with file boxes and corkboards. He didn't offer a seat. Just studied me for a while. You're Evan. Yeah. She said you were stubborn. I waited. He lit a cigarette. Didn't smoke it. Just let it burn. She came here 5 years ago. Alone. Car full of nothing but kids' books and court transcripts. Said she needed a place to build something better. The network? He nodded. We didn't call it that. We didn't call it anything. Just people helping people the system forgot. Theo showed me the ledger. Not names, just codes, cities, dates, outcomes. I spotted them. B 4.15 IND-Maya. T 2.03 BAL-May. She never stayed in one place, Theo said. She'd drop in, train a volunteer, set up safe housing, then vanish. Said visibility was a liability. Was she ever in danger? He looked at me like I was missing the point. She was the danger. To the people who preyed on kids. To the judges who looked away. To the men who paid to move children across state lines. And Victor Hale? Theo's jaw clenched. That bastard wasn't alone. There's a private fund. Shadow side of some law firms and faith groups. They hire ghosts like him to erase people like her. It all clicked. The surveillance. The running. The silence. Emily wasn't just escaping. She was resisting something much larger than I'd imagined. Theo handed me a burner phone. One contact. Press 1. She'll answer. Once I stared at the phone. You're giving me her? I'm giving you a chance. She trusted you more than anyone. I didn't press it. Not yet. I left Bishop House that night and drove for hours with the phone in my lap, through Missouri, then Arkansas. By dawn, I reached a rest stop and finally pressed one. It rang. Twice. Then, Evan? My throat closed. Yeah. Silence. Then a breath. You weren't supposed to find me. I wasn't trying to. I just followed the pieces. She didn't speak for a moment. Then, quietly, is Maya okay? Safe. Strong. A soft exhale. Then I did one thing right. You did more than that. Another pause. I have to go. Wait. Just tell me, are you happy? A longer silence. I'm useful. That's enough. The line went dead. I returned home with a phone I couldn't turn off, and a voice in my head I couldn't silence. Emily was alive. She was doing what she believed was right. But now I knew how fragile that line was. Between justice and secrecy. Between protection and hiding crimes. Between love and obsession. And I had a choice. Expose the network she helped build, or help shield it. The world wouldn't make that decision for me. I spent the next week combing through everything I had. Letters, photos, burner numbers, even sound files from Victor's cabin. I built a dossier, something that could expose the private fund, Hale, and everyone connected. Then I stopped. Because every time I looked at her face, even in grainy photos, I didn't see a vigilante. I saw someone who gave up everything to protect people no one else would fight for. But what haunted me most wasn't the risk of exposing her. It was the idea that someone else might. Victor Hale wasn't the last of them. There would be others. I called Theo. Asked him how long they could stay hidden. He was silent. Not long, he said. Eventually, someone always talks, or slips. So, what do we do? He took a long breath. You give her a way to finish it. I spent 3 months building something new. A case strong enough to dismantle the shadow group without ever naming her. An anonymous leak. A trove of documents linked to shell accounts, security firms, and encrypted contracts. I gave it to a journalist I trusted. Someone whose life she had once saved, though he never knew it. And I disappeared. I changed my name. I moved south. Small town. Rented a workshop. Rebuilt my life from the edges inward. And one day, months later, a letter arrived. No return address. Just 3 lines. Thank you for protecting them. Thank you for letting me go. And thank you for still remembering. I burned the letter. Not to forget, but to keep it from anyone who might try to follow her again. Because love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about building a world where they no longer have to run. And sometimes it's about knowing that the best parts of them never really left you at all.